Good morning everyone, this is T. Dube, and as it is written on the screen here, keeping quiet. So we are going to begin the discussion of this particular poem written by Pablo Neruda. But before we move on to the discussion, let me tell you how this particular lecture has been organized so that you can have some idea what you are going to learn in this particular chapter. So first of all, we will be discussing the significance of the title, Keeping Quiet, followed by a brief discussion about the poet Pablo Neruda. And then after we will have a brief understanding of the central idea of this poem. After that, we will have line by line explanation of this particular work. Then we will see what poetic devices have been applied by the poet in this particular piece, followed by a summary, and finally we will see the analysis of this poem. So after this brief discussion, let us begin understanding the significance of this title, Keeping Quiet. So when we use this particular phrase or somebody asks you to keep quiet, what does it mean? It means keep quiet, do not speak, remain silent. But when we talk about the poem, Keeping Quiet, it will ask you to think about your actions, to introspect, to do soul searching and take a break from your busy life so that you can regenerate your energy and you can start afresh. Now, after we have discussed briefly what the title of this poem suggests, let us know something about the poet Pablo Neruda. So here we are. Pablo Neruda, born Neftali Ricardo Reis Basalto on July 12, 1904 in Parral, Chile, was a towering figure in 20th century literature and one of the most celebrated poets of the Spanish-speaking world. His life and work are a testament to the power of poetry to capture the essence of human emotion, political fervor, and the beauty of the natural world. So from this paragraph, we come to know that so far as Pablo Neruda is concerned, he was born Neftali Ricardo Reis Basalto on July 12, 1904 in Parral, Chile. And he was an important figure in the 20th century literature. He is a very famous, you can say, one of the renowned poets of the Spanish-speaking world. And the last part, his life and work are a proof to the power of poetry to capture the essence of human emotions, political fervor, and the beauty of the natural world. So he is going to present you three things together: human emotions, political fervor, and then beauty of the human nature. Then, Neruda's poetic journey began at a young age when he published his first work, Crepusculario. So this was the first work that he published at the age of 19. Crepusculario. Please pronounce the word before me. However, it was his second collection, 20 love poems and a song of despair, which was published in the year 1924, that catapulted him to fame. Catapulted means took him to fame or gave him fame, you can say. These sensual and passionate verses resonated with readers and established him as a poet of love and desire. So his second collection, that was 20 love poems and a song of despair, gave him a lot of fame, and readers were attracted, or you can say liked his work. This is now Look at the next paragraph. It is talking about what themes usually he included in his works. So throughout his prolific career, Neruda explored a wide range of themes. What were they? From love and longing to politics and social justice. So love, desire for politics and social justice. These are major themes that we will find in his works. He was a staunch advocate for workers' rights and leftist causes. So this sentence also shows that he has been a supporter for workers' rights, workers' interests. And his poetry often carried a revolutionary spirit. His Canto General, which was published in the year 1950, is a sweeping epic that chronicles the history, geography, and people of Latin America. So this poem was published in the year 1950 and it tells us what it includes. Neruda's literary achievements were not confined to poetry alone. He also served as a diplomat representing Chile in various countries and was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1971 for his profound and impactful body of work. So he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in the year 1971. This speaks volume for what kind of poet he must have been. His works have been translated into numerous languages, allowing people from diverse cultures to appreciate his poetic genius. Not a difficult sentence to understand. And the last paragraph about him. Pablo Neruda's life and poetry remain an enduring source of inspiration for generations of writers and activists and lovers of literature worldwide. His ability to blend the personal and political, the sensual and the profound, continues to captivate and move readers, ensuring his place as an iconic figure in the world of poetry. So this paragraph means that so far as his poetry is concerned, it is a long-lasting source of inspiration for generations of writers, activists, and those who have keen interest in literature. He has great ability to combine personal and political, sensual and the profound, and therefore Neruda continues to captivate and attract readers, making sure that he achieves a place in the world of literature. So this is something about Pablo Neruda, and now let us talk about the theme, the central idea of the present work, that is keeping quiet. Now, before I take you to the discussion of the central idea or theme of this particular poem, let me talk about you as a student. Then I will also talk about myself, and likewise we will discuss the life of each and every individual on this planet. So let me begin with your life as a student. Think about the activities, think about your daily routine, think about the kind of pressure that you have on your mind. Each and every minute, each and every moment you are pressurized because of the kind of rat race, the kind of competition, the kind of progress, the kind of the pace of development that this world is going on. The present poem, Keeping Quiet, instructs us, suggests us to take a break from this busy schedule of our life and think about ourselves, introspect, cogitate, take a break from this hectic schedule of life and give some relief to our mind, so that in that moment of peace, in that moment of tranquility, in that moment of rust-free life, we can regenerate our energy and restart afresh. So in a nutshell, the central idea of this poem is this. And now look on the screen and let us discuss this central idea line by line. Now look at the first line. Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda is a contemplative and introspective poem. The phrase contemplative and introspective poem means it inspires you to contemplate, means to think deeply, and introspect, that means to ask questions to yourself whether whatever you are doing is right or wrong. Introspect means that. And that encourages a moment of collective stillness and silence. And then it inspires us, it appeals us, the poem appeals us to take a break, to take rest from our work and maintain silence from that work. In this brief respite, that means in this brief moment of stillness and silence from the noise and chaos of everyday life, the poet envisions means envisages, imagines, pictures, foretells a world where people temporarily stop their activities, their conflicts, and their rush towards progress. So this paragraph must be memorized by you, each and every phrase. The central theme revolves around the idea, please memorize this one, that this pause in action can lead to a profound transformation in human behavior and understanding. What he means to say, that this moment of stillness or silence can lead to a profound transformation, change in our behavior, change in our understanding. It's a call for introspection and a break from the relentless pursuit of productivity and achievement, as I was talking about. So this poem, Keeping Quiet, is a call, is an appeal for introspection, for doing soul searching and taking a break from relentless pursuit of productivity and achievement. So we are pursuing our aim relentlessly without a break. The poet wants us to have a break. Then the poem suggests that in this moment of quiet, people might recognize the beauty of togetherness and the importance of harmony with nature. So Pablo Neruda suggests that when we happen to have a moment of silence or stillness, then only we can understand, we can recognize, we can appreciate the beauty of being together and the importance of harmony with nature. That means we can harmonize with nature, we can understand nature and even protect nature because of this harmony. Next, Neruda highlights the potential for positive change. How? We will come to know. Fishermen not harming wells, those who prepare for wars, seeking peace, and people coming together as brothers. However, the poem also acknowledges that this desire for stillness should not be confused with inactivity. So in the coming explanation, we will come to know that this moment of stillness does not mean inactivity, tardiness, letharginess. It doesn't mean that we should be workless or we should do nothing. Instead, it's a moment to reflect on the true essence of life. So it's a time to think about the true nature of life and break free from the constant motion that often binds us to our own humanity and the world around us. Now, look at the last paragraph. Ultimately, Neruda's keeping quiet is a plea. Plea means appeal, request for self-awareness. That means we should be self-aware, we should understand ourselves. Empathy, that means we should understand others' problems, and a deeper connection to both the earth and one another. And we should try to connect to the nature and with one another, reminding us that in silence we might find the wisdom and renewal we seek in a noisy world. So this is a beautiful line. So he reminds us that when we take a break from our busy schedule, from our hectic lifestyle, then we can become wise and renew our own potential, renew our own energy. A beautiful. Now, after we have discussed the central idea of this poem, let us begin explanation of it line by line. And you have to do only one thing. You have to answer a few questions, or you can say a number of questions that I will be asking to you related to this explanation part. So look on the screen, please, and then the explanation of these two lines are also given. So you have to answer the questions that I will be asking you. Read and then get ready to answer. The answer is there in the explanation part. So when say, now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. So here in the first line, the poet says, now we will count to 12. Not a very difficult line to understand. And we will all keep still. So try to understand the meaning of each of these words. Now means present time. We means all people together. Count to 12. 1 to 12. And after counting up to 12, we means all people. Here we denotes all people on the earth. Will all keep still. Now the questions are, what does the poet ask us to do? Look at the explanation part and you can answer it by using the keywords. So what does the poet ask the readers to do? Question number 2. What does the phrase count to 12 symbolize? Because it has been used as a symbol. It has been used as a symbol. And question number 3. What does he mean by saying, we will all keep still? We will all keep still. So what does this word will keep still mean? Answer to these 3 questions are there in the explanation part. And please answer orally so that you can memorize the entire explanation. Now look at the second stanza. But before you move on to the second stanza, always keep the first stanza as a background of your knowledge so that you can connect the coming stanzas, and by the end of the explanation you can have entire body or explanation of the chapter. So in the previous stanza, in those 2 lines, we have none. Now we will count up to 12 and we will all keep still. Now, what happens next? Look on the screen and let us understand it line by line. So, when we will keep still, what will happen? For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. So the poet is asking us not to do three things in that moment of stillness. What three things? Line number 2. Let's not speak in any language. In simple language. Why? Because language creates barriers between people. 2. Let's stop for 1 second. Let's maintain the silence for a brief period of time and not move our arms so much. What it means? Look at the explanation part. So in this stanza, the poet says that what he is suggesting is a rare event, a unique moment in the history of the earth. And during this moment of silence, the poet encourages people not to speak in any language. As I have already explained, this signifies a break from linguistic and cultural barriers. So let's not speak in any language. Why? Because speaking a language can create a linguistic, a language or cultural barrier. In this way, he emphasizes a universal non-verbal connection. So if you want to bring together all the people of the world, you will have to demolish the differences, all the differences. So the first appeal is to demolish the linguistic and cultural differences so that we can all be together. This call is for a brief, or you can say 1 second pause in the hustle and bustle of life. Hustle and bustle means busy or chaotic life. So it highlights the brevity and simplicity of the act. So it says briefly, even for a short time, for 1 second, let us all of us be together. And people are asked to stay still, reduce unnecessary movements. That means let us not move our arms so much. Let us reduce our unnecessary movements. This suggests a temporary suspension of action. Now, 2 important questions can come from here. Number 1, why does the poet appeal us not to speak in any language? Number 2, what does the phrase not move our arms so much mean? Now, let us move on to this stanza. But before I begin explanation of this one, I would like to ask you a question. Do you remember the previous 6 lines of this poem? Try to recollect them and understand the explanation that we have done. Now, look at this stanza. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a certain strangeness. What he means to say is this. In these lines, the poet depicts a moment that is out of the ordinary. That means an exotic moment. The use of the word exotic means that this moment would be unusual. Why will this moment be unusual? It will be filled with a sense of novelty or wonder. It would be without rush, means that in this moment there would be no hurry or haste. Without engine suggests that there would be no mechanical noise or the sound of engines. Creating a sense and peaceful atmosphere. During this exotic moment, people would be united or gathered together. It implies a sense of community or togetherness, where individuals are sharing the experience. The phrase sudden strangeness suggests that the moment being described is unusual or unfamiliar. So, a simple question is, why does Neruda call this moment a moment of strangeness, or in what way it will be an exotic moment? Using the keywords from the explanation part, answer this question and let us move ahead. Now, look at this stanza. It's very easy for you to understand once you have understood the concept. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm wells, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. These two simple lines symbolize a lot. Look at the explanation part. So in this moment of tranquility, peace, even the fishermen who typically engage in activities like catching fish would refrain from harming wells. Refrain from means stop or remain away from harming or killing wells in the sea. This highlights the idea of a profound exotic moment. The cold sea would symbolize the harsh and unforgiving environment where such activities typically occur. Here, the focus shifts to the man gathering salt. This is very, very important. The fact that he is looking at his hurt hands implies that he is taking a moment to reflect on the physical toll of his labor. Let me explain this line. So if you remember at the beginning of the poem, I was talking about, it is a poem that inspires you to contemplate and introspect. So this is the moment when a man gathering salt looks at his hurt hands. He will think about his actions and introspect, and will take a break from his work so that he can heal his wounds, his hands, and therefore it's as if he's pausing from his work to acknowledge the strain and injury his hands have endured. This line underscores the idea of people experiencing a deeper connection with their actions and surroundings during this unusual moment. Now let us move ahead to this stanza, one of the most important stanzas of this poem. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. So here he is talking about damages or devastation that could be caused because of the wars. So the poet shifts to a more global perspective, mentioning here, when he is talking about wars, it means he is talking about global thoughts, global challenges, mentioning those who plan wars, often associated with destruction and conflict. So whenever we talk about war, for example, at present, this Russia and Ukraine war is going on, it is doing only one thing, and that is destruction and conflict among people. So he suggests that those involved in planning and waging environmentally damaging conflicts or wars, such as wars involving chemical gases or fires, you must have heard every time the leaders threatening that they will go nuclear. So if they go nuclear, what can be the consequences? You can imagine. Those thinking of wars that are so destructive that there would be no survivors left on either side should change their attitude. Very, very important line. Neruda says that those who are planning to go for such a destructive war where no survivors would be left should change their attitude, should change their thoughts. In this exotic moment, they should choose to put on clean clothes. Here, clean clothes means ideas, thoughts, attitude. So they need to change their attitudes, their ideas, their destructive thoughts, and adapt or change to something harmonious or peaceful, and peacefully walk along their fellow humans. They would refrain means stop. They would refrain from engaging in destructive activities and instead spend their time in leisure, taking shade and doing nothing. It suggests that even those for violence and conflict can experience a change of heart and choose peaceful coexistence when given the opportunity. Hope you must have understood, and if not understood, then repeat, pause the video, read it two, three times, and then read the explanation. Now moving on to the next. Here, what I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Yes, a moment of break or a moment of respite from work does not mean inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. This is a very important line. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. What does this stanza mean? Let us understand with the help of this explanation. The poet clarifies that his desire for a moment of stillness and peace should not be confused or misunderstood as a desire for complete inactivity or lethargy. He is not advocating or supporting for a life devoid of purpose or action. In place of it, he seeks a balanced and reflective approach to life. Here, he emphasizes the importance of life and living fully. He wants no association with death, because if we become lethargic, if we become inactive, it will lead to death. It means a preference for vitality and the embrace of life's experiences. Further, he suggests that our relentless pursuit of constant activity and productivity stops us, prevents us from truly understanding ourselves and experiencing a deeper sense of peace. The poet proposes that we could temporarily let go of our single-minded focus on constant motion and do nothing for a while. Take a break from our work, take a respite from our work, and it might create a profound stillness or silence. This silence is seen as an opportunity for self-reflection and insight, a chance to interrupt the sadness that arises from our failure to understand ourselves and our self-destructive tendencies. So what he means to say is this, that once we take a chance to interrupt this sadness of not understanding ourselves that arises from our failure to understand ourselves. So as we go on doing work and work and work, this mad race of working does not give us time to think about ourselves, and these not understanding, not being aware of ourselves is what he says is leading to death, our self-destructive tendencies. So these are our self-destructive tendencies. Now, the last stanza. Perhaps the earth can teach us what? As when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. So in this last stanza he says, the poet suggests that we can learn from the earth itself, which goes through cycles of apparent dormancy, the dormancy means inactivity, followed by renewal. So once the earth becomes dormant, where you feel that there is no life, it means the earth is taking a break from its activities. Like the earth in its dormant state, there are moments when everything appears lifeless. However, these dormant periods can lead to new life and growth. So this poem returns to the initial call for counting to 12 and emphasizing the importance of the simple act. The poem concludes with the poet leaving when he says, Now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. So what he says is, the poem concludes with the poet leaving, now I'll count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I'll go. So he will leave, and the readers with the notion that this moment of silence is something they can embrace and experience on their own. So now after he leaves on us to adopt, to embrace this moment of stillness so that we can think and then regenerate, then reproduce like the earth does. So this is the explanation of the poem. I think you must have understood. And so far as the latter part of the lecture is concerned, I do not think it is needed. If you want, you can text a message. Only then the remaining part of the lecture will be shared, because in that case it will become a longer lecture, and if it becomes a longer lecture, then students do not feel studying light. So as much as it is required for your purpose, I am providing it.